Well, well, well. It looks like it's finally your turn, Yuji Itadori. What's up, guys? Welcome here, and here we are to do a nice little quick review to chapter 249 of Jujutsu Kaisen, which is known as The Decisive Battle in the Uninhabited Demon-Infested Shinjuku Part 21. And I ain't gonna lie to you. Thanks to the spoilers, thanks to the discussion, and thanks to the live reaction, we can check it over on Patreon for as low as $1 a month, or become a member to check it out here on the channel for as low as $3 a month. I've changed my tune. I'm a lot more positive. Well, to be fair, I was pretty positive in 248. I just yapped negatively a lot because I feel like it's a lot easier to be negative than it is to be positive, and I just had a lot more negative things to say other than just straight glazing. But we have some straight glazing to do, so let's not waste any more time and let's hop right into it. Editing me. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. What's up, guys? That guy with a pencil here. Fun fact, I do happen to, I almost grabbed the wrong sword, have it on me and keep it on me at all times. And another fun fact, I need to set a timer. So hold on. I should have done this before I started recording. 5-minute timer. I summon you to this plane of reality. Remember, for these quick review formats, we do 5 minutes for 3 different sections. It is going to be, number 1, the story, the plot progression. Number 2, the characters and everything that has to deal with that. Number 3, the scaling. And I know it's going to be a bit longer. I'm going to add one more section for what I expect to happen in the future based on that. I may make that section 3 minutes, though. We'll see as we go along. Let's not waste any more time, and let's do it. Ready? 3, 2, 1, boom. Plot progression. Plot progression is massive. Fact. Not really, though. Kind of, sort of, but not really, though. But kind of, sort of, but not really, though. Because here's the thing. With the plot in this chapter, it kind of, I mean, ironically enough, despite showing us the situation, it kind of does nothing that we didn't already learn in 248. In terms of a drastic plot progression, that was mainly 248. But, of course, there still is a massive plot progression in Sukuna's final state that he ends up in by the very end of this chapter. By him being locked in with Yuji Itadori and Rika Orimoto and Yuta Okotsu in this deadly dance of domains. He's now in a state where it genuinely seems like our heroes stand a chance again, because the mighty low Yuta Okotsu has appeared to save us all. But with that being the case, outside of that, not much happens in the chapter plot-wise when you really think about it. Though there are some major things that do get mentioned here, wrapped up, that we do need to touch on. Number 1, if you remember, all the way back into 21 of the manga, there was a certain statement made by Kenny. The statement that Kenny made that actually gave us a chapter of buffer between the start of the Gojo and Sukuna fight and Gojo's release in 221. Remember, Gojo told Sukuna to not mink, specifically because he was expecting a little something, a little thing for Sukuna to do to him. And not do to him. Whoa, he's not Jin Itadori. He may look like Jin Itadori, but he's not Jin Itadori. I guess Jin looks like Sukuna. But if you remember that statement, a lot of people, myself included, were wondering, what is this thing that Sukuna needs to do for Kenny before he fights Gojo? What's happening here? What's going on? What's transpiring? I think this is it. Especially considering this may or may not, I mean, this is the copium of me saying may not, but basically, I'm like, where I was once 50-50 on Kenny still being around, in the spoilers, just based on this translation at least, I'm like 90 in the favor of him being gone, 10% in him not being gone. Because Kenny says this: one at least needs some insurance. I always and already had Sukuna undergo the succession ritual. What remains is him simply becoming the parent of the ritual via the culling game. So, this is seemingly enough what Kenny needed from Sukuna. He needed to get Sukuna prepared to be the new daddy. Kenny, it wouldn't be the first time he left a family member with a kid that he made that he ultimately ended up getting rid of due to external circumstances, such as leaving the body he was currently in. So this is a big plot progression, because it kind of soft. It's hard but soft. This is very clearly the hard execution of Kinjaku, right? Like, the blade straight through the head. I'm not sure if you can get much harder execution than that. But also, this kind of hard locks Kenny from the narrative, in a sense. In the fact that he explicitly says here, I won't say I've had 1,000 years worth of fun, but I'm glad the one I got to play with at the end was him. Now, it's up to you guys. So, this is essentially Kenny saying, bye! I'm going to the airport now. You don't have to see me anymore. I've resolved all my plot threads. I may have some lost potential with my kids, but that doesn't really matter. Tell Choso, I got. Like, essentially, the plot progression of seemingly hard-cutting Kenny. I have copium, but hard-cutting Kenny, that's a big thing that's hard to confirm. Because the reason I was so confident Kenny wasn't cooked at the end of 243 is because it was left very, very vague, and that head was still mostly in one piece. And sure, the head is still also mostly in one piece. I'd sing the One Piece anime intro, but I don't know it off the top of my head. Despite the head still being in one piece, it is pierced straight through. And while whatever copium I may have about the teeth positioning and where Yuta gets them, and the fact that Yuta doesn't explicitly slice the brain, and the fact that we don't see Takaba leave or get brought with Yuta when Yuta teleports back to the main battlefield, I mean, I can still see the vision, but this essentially is like a hard plot progression, hard locking us into the Sukuna route. Hypothetically, if we're talking like video game terminology, if we had a video game multiple pathways, there was once the Kenny route and the Sukuna route, which we were walking down, it looks like Gege hard locked us into the Sukuna route with maybe the merger DLC ending. But that's it. We already knew the merger was getting transferred. We saw that at the end of 248, or towards the middle of it, and we knew Yuta was going to fight Sukuna. And the fight was fight. But in terms of just general plot progression, the chapter is pretty solid. I'd probably give it like... The removal of Kenny's big, though. If we're going to take this as a hard removal, I think the chapter gets like a 9, if not flat out a 10, in terms of plot progression. Because that is big. That is big. He's one of our primary antagonists. Out of the big 3, he was the second most important, looking at it narratively speaking. Only ahead of Urume and only behind Sukuna. So him being gone is big. But 8 out of 10, 9, possibly 10. But let's move on to characters. So... this chapter does... ironically enough, especially in comparison to 248, right? Where 248 gave me a lot of appreciation for a character who I did like. Don't get me wrong. I liked Sukuna. I still like Sukuna. I will be continuing to like Sukuna in the future. But for a chapter that kind of revolutionized my thought process on Sukuna and showed that he was developing and further evolving and all that good stuff, it was a lot of new character work, a lot of new evolution and a really cool way to do it that also fit into the themes of power and control that all comes within the narrative of Jujutsu Kaisen. All that wonderful. Beautiful. This chapter doesn't really have anything we don't already know about the characters. Like, we just get, once again, the merger being transferred. Oh, wow. Like, the merger got transferred. Nice. Kenny wanted to have fun, but he's not able to have fun anymore. Okay. We also knew this all the way back from 243. Okay. Takaba doesn't get a line here. And, like, don't get me wrong, the one thing I will give this chapter, I do like Yuta affirming his resolve against Sukuna and taking the blame, so to speak, because the one, like, big... because this is a Yuta chapter. Like, verbatim, this is a Yuta Okkotsu chapter. There's no debating that. This chapter, start to finish, is all about Yuta and his impacts and repercussions on the narrative. I do like Yuta's little character moment here of thinking about what could have been, thinking about what was lost, and accepting the fact that in some way, even if it's not really his fault, the way the situation turned out, where Higuruma got gone, the merger got transferred, all this has happened, Sukuna's incarnation doing so well, and cooking so many different characters, all of that, technically, once again, I'm putting technically in massive quotation, well, did I put technically in massive quotation marks? No. It's his fault. I'll put that in massive quotation marks. All of this is his fault. That's what I'll put in quotation marks. Because it really isn't. Like, don't get me wrong. As much as I was even messing on Yuta, being like, oh, well, he fumbled. He did kind of fumble, but the bro's 17. He's a baby. He's still a baby. Don't get me wrong. He may be in a special grade sorcerer for like 9 months. He may be the 3rd strongest character in the verse now. He may have all this, but he's still a baby. Bro's 17. So the fact that he does have this little moment of self-doubt, and he resolves himself throughout the entire chapter to just lock in, give his all, dedicate his heart and soul to this battle, and put up a fight against a monster that slayed the only man stronger than him in the modern day, I gotta put respect on it. But kind of in a similar vein to the fact that this was gonna happen anyway, whatever, I still somewhat feel that way because Yuta was going to do it, but I will actually end up giving the chapter points. I was gonna dock the chapter a little bit on character stuff, but this is what happens. I'll talk myself out of it. I do like that Sukuna does force Yuta to reaffirm it, right? Like, Sukuna doesn't have to say a word to Yuta. He just starts boxing, and Yuta immediately realizes that no. Even if I made mistakes, even if there are things I feel I need to atone for, even if things could have gone differently in another world. He even explicitly mentions the idea that a lot of the fandom was wondering, and he does give the excuse for it, why maybe Maki could have done it. Maybe she could have come in and cooked up against Kenjaku for their surprise attack on Kenjaku. Maybe she could have done it. He takes responsibility. He locks in. He admits he's the one who won execute Kenjaku, and he's the one who's going to make up for the loss of life, and he's going to save everybody. Fantastic stuff. I'll still take that, especially for a character like Yuta Okkotsu, who is one of the few, well, not one of the few, a lot of our protagonists care about other characters, but like one of the few who deeply cares about the sanctity and respects the sanctity and security of life, the value of it, everything that goes into it. I do like the fact that even though he still feels bad, he feels guilty, he wishes he could have been there, he realizes that he still had an important role to play. If Maki was there, sure, she may have gone for the brain and sliced them apart in perfect mega world where characters act perfectly optimally. But at the same time, she could have not done that. And she could have sliced Kenny's neck off, if she even succeeded in that. She would have. But, like, if she even succeeded in that. And then the curse would have ran rampant throughout the Lake Gosho colony. And then once the barriers collapsed, then they could have gone anywhere and everywhere. And who knows? Maybe Kenny would still be alive. If he's not still alive already. So that is all fine. Once again, I do like Sukuna in this chapter. I like how he's forced to acknowledge Yuji Todori. But, like, he already did that in 248. In a much better and more interesting degree. And as much as I'm happy that Yuji does get a role in this chapter, he doesn't really get any character writing. Like, in the sense that nothing really happens for Yuji's character. I mean, Hard confirms his soul abilities, but, like, that's more of a scaling thing, not really a character writing thing. Bro literally does not have a single word. He doesn't even have a thought. We don't even get a peek inside this man's head. So, I can't really give Yuji many character points, can't really give Sukuna many character points, and Rika's still Rika, Kenny's still Kenny, Takaba's still... But, other than that, I give it a solid 7, 7.5, if not an 8 for Yuta's character writing. I've run out of time. We must talk about La Scaling. This is weird. This is weird, and I'll go more in depth in the full-length girthy review. This is like one of the few times where I'm recording the quick review before the girthy review, so my thoughts haven't had full time to crystallize. I recorded the 32-minute live reaction. I think it's like 33 minutes, actually. But like the 33-minute live reaction, we can check it over on Patreon for as low as $1 a month to become a member. For as low as $3 a month, you can check that out over there. You can see the cogs in my head turning, because there is a point of wondering here. Correct me if I'm wrong, and I'll even peek before I do the full review. Correct me if I'm wrong, but like, did Gojo even ever do damage to Maguna with just regular punches with curse energy reinforcement behind him? Because I don't know, y'all. That looks like life juice. Like I'm just gonna call it straight. That looks like life juice. And, like, unless you want to argue that Sukuna... Like, maybe you can argue Sukuna's lowering his durability. That just seems so... Like, it seems so stupid. But the reason I kind of have to go with that is because this implies, even if it's not much, right? It's... Someone even pointed out in the spoiler discussion. Am I supposed to get excited over Yuta drawing, like, a little sprinkle of juice from Sukuna with, what, a regular punch? A little kizzle. Because Gojo couldn't even do that. At least from what I remember. Every single time Gojo did, like, extreme lethal damage, it was through usage of a curse technique. Usage of his abilities, usage of blue and stuff like that to amp his speed. I think this is the first time that Sukuna's taken damage from something that's other than himself, a curse technique, and the Executioner's Blade. That's it! This is the only thing, and it's just a regular punch from base Yuta. If you think Yuta gets massively strong when he activates fully manifested Rika and puts the ring on, then that's even crazier. If you think bro gets a 5 times multiplier because he's technically fighting without his technique right now, like, this is actually insane. And it kind of makes Gojo seem less impressive. And it makes it I'm not going to say it sends Kashimo to the dirt. Now with Yuta pretty much hard locking. That's the other big scaling thing with the chapter. Yuta's pretty much hard locked at number 3. Like, I don't know. Now I don't really even see the vision. The only thing you could argue for Kenjaku is like, well, Kenjaku still has the open barrier domain, but like, Yuta and him go bar for bar. Yuta with his way superior speed, apparently. When he feels like using it, of course. Way superior speed. He just removes Kenny's head again. And, like, I don't think Kenny's maintaining domain with his body falling over. I think decapitation counts as enough lethal damage to shut down domain. Yuta could likely move quick enough. He could, if he feels like it, he could move quick enough. We see that in 243. So Yuta's hard locked at number 3. I'll lay it down, even above Kashimo. Because Kashimo, as cool and as great and as wonderful as he was, he never even landed a hit on Sukuna. And of course, I know the Kashimo stands out there, my Kashimo creamers out there, they're going to be like, well, Sukuna was dealing with Rika and Yuta's sword, and then Yuta punched his belly mouth while he was clearly not expecting that. Understandable. But, like, he still ain't landed a hit, though. Kashimo still didn't. He never did any damage. He didn't even graze, bro. Not even a lick of juice. Like, essentially, remember, the only damage that Kashimo actually did to Sukuna was, like, a few drops from 20-finger Omega Giga Fatigue, no RCT, whack, no toe having Sukuna. That was Meguna. Once Sukuna incarnated, no damage. So Yuta being able to do this, that's crazy. Obviously on the scaling front, Yuta getting a domain that just essentially gives him an unlimited access to his curse technique. Good stuff. Very, very good stuff. It's nice to finally get the domain confirmed and locked in too. Admittedly, if he does always have to use them through the sword, it is a little bit underwhelming. But of course, we don't know the sure hit. If the sure hit is Angel's technique, if his domain turns off all of their techniques, it's a really good domain. It's ironically enough, if he casts it first, and Angel's technique truly is the sure hit, if you think that even opening a barrier counts as technique activation, then users may not even be able to activate domain inside this domain. But presumably, you can probably still do that. I think the act of opening a barrier does not count as a curse technique, and if it's an open barrier, you would still have like the sure hit effect and stuff like that. But still, Yuta's domain, getting introduced, getting dropped, him getting feats on Sukuna, and of course, I would love to gas this up more, but not only was I wrong in the spoiler discussion, you can see both of Sukuna's eyes are still fine here, but he did get a gash on his head from the Thin Icebreaker. Thin Icebreaker spatial manipulation. So sure, it's cool that Yuta, when Sukuna was standing perfectly still, was able to draw some juice from him with a blade swing, but it's Thin Icebreaker. So it's not necessarily a testament to Yuta's base swing speed. In fact, the fact that Sukuna took so little damage, once again, kind of makes this weird. It does make this a little bit weird, the fact that he draws some life juice from Sukuna here, but slamming him dead in the face with a Thin Icebreaker didn't do all too much. I'm already out of time, so Yuta, good. Scaling, good. 10 out of 10 chapter for scaling. Wonderful stuff. Kind of locks in things that have been under speculation. Finally, I'll do another last 5 minutes. I'll go with the fiver. What do I think is going to happen next? I'm leaning, something that is mentioned, is that, and something that Yuta explicitly notices, Sukuna's RCT is redeveloping. His output's coming back. He is evolving, slowly but surely, back to his true self. We don't get a status update on his domain, at least not in this translation. I've heard people mention in the comments, when I was reading through the comments on the spoiler discussion, people had mentioned that Sukuna was apparently getting his domain back. There's not a mention of that in this chapter. But if his output is returning, and his brain was already healed, he could go domain. And I wouldn't be shocked if he did it. But at the same time, I do genuinely believe, in terms of what's coming next, we're going to see Yuta and Yuji fight. For a little bit. I could see all of 250 being essentially protagonist on protagonist. Well, not in that way, but like protagonist double teaming action, where they both get their licks in on Sukuna throughout the entirety of the encounter. Because this is too clean a setup. Like, it's too smooth a transition. The only thing is, though, because it's too smooth a transition, and because it could lead into the next aspect of the fight if Yuta doesn't... Well, no, Yuta's fine here, so is Yuji. But if Sukuna doesn't find a way to break out of this, at least not in any sort of simple or clean way, there is a high likelihood, and by high I mean very high likelihood, that we're going to cut away next chapter. Because, I hate to say it, we're not getting rid of Hei and Body Sukuna before we finish Akari vs. Urume. We simply are not. And we still haven't gotten a Maki sighting. So, like, that still needs to happen. Plus, Hikari or Urume needs to lose and then show up to the battlefield. Like, there's still so many things that need to happen, even with things that are left here. Do I think the merger's happening anytime soon? I'm leaning towards no. At least not yet. Once again, Sukuna did explicitly say in 248 he wants to slaughter them all. He wants to tear them all limb from limb before he starts merging time. Like, then he'll do merger once everyone's slaughtered. He may change his mind on that considering the situation he's in, but even then, maybe bringing out Tengen here and trying to start the merger would fall under Angel's sure hit effect, since that's what Sukuna theorizes it is, and maybe he wouldn't be able to start it, and or, since Sukuna is more cursed spirit, well, not literally cursed spirit, but since Sukuna and by proxy Tengen are closer to cursed than human, or at least a hybrid, maybe that would still hurt and accidentally cook baby Tengen. So I don't see the merger happening quickly. Soon? Maybe. Quickly? Nah, I don't know. At least I don't see the vision on it, essentially. So I don't think merger's happening soon. If I had to take a guess, we're most likely going to either A, hard cut away to Hikari versus Uraume so we can wrap up that plot line. If we wrapped up Kenny in this chapter, we need to wrap up Uraume and their entire debacle. So we can just essentially just lock fully in on Sukuna. We need to lock that down. So I could see us cutting away and maybe ending that fight. Maybe not exclusively in 250, but with Uraume already having Pop Domain and Hikari presumably not showing anything else until he gets to Sukuna. But even then, the thing with the scenario right now, could Hikari even appear in Yuta's domain? And what's up with Yuji being able to just stand around in Yuta's domain? If the sure hit is truly Angel's technique. But then again, it's only effective on Sukuna because Sukuna's literally a demon. But at the same time, there's still definitely some questions, some possibilities, some mysteries up in this mystery... I'll call it the mystery mobile. There's some mysteries up in the air with this. But overall, in terms of what happens next, I'm very, very excited. It's one of those cases where I wouldn't be mad at anything that happens next. Like, I know a lot of people definitely wouldn't like it if we cut away to Hikari versus Uraume. I understand that. I respect that. But I do want that wrapped up before we get this. I'm fine with the anticipation. I don't see another Takaba versus Kenjaku cutaway, where if we cut away to something else, it's actually going to, like, annoy me a little bit at first. And then I'll, like, recontextualize it in my head through the help of the comment section, and then I'll think on it again, and then I'll end up loving it. Like, I now love Kenny versus Takaba. So, I don't know. I'm fine with anything that happens. Most likely, we're cutting away. I'm leaning towards that. I feel like 250 is going to open up with Hikari versus Uraume in Uraume's domain. Next most likely scenario, we're just going to get Yuta and Yuji boxing up Sukuna and seeing them start to tear away Sukuna's soul from Megami's body. Number 3, least likely thing, Maki comes in and just removes Sukuna's head. But considering the whole point of keeping Sukuna alive is to save Megami, I highly doubt that. So Maki most likely is not going to appear anytime soon. I don't think she's cooking anytime soon, which is very, very unfortunate. But still, in terms of anticipation and hype for the next chapter, you know it's got to be a nice, juicy 10 out of 10. Overall, while I have these last 13 seconds run down of what happens next, I really, really do like the chapter. Super duper solid. Some simple and clean character work. I'd say this is mainly a power scaling chapter and a chapter to kind of explain what happened and wrap up and clean up some loose plot threads. So it's good on a story front. It's good on I say it's good on a character front too, with Yuta's resolve and Yuji getting a role, and it's great in things like scaling and excitement for what comes next. So overall, a very, very, very W chapter. However, if you made it all the way to the end of this video, please leave the main 2. Actually, nah. Leave character main. Specifically in that order, character main. You can split the 2 up in a sentence, but don't say main character, say character main in the comment section down below. I would like to thank you so much for watching. Please remember to leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. And make sure you hit that little notification bell so you not miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do happen to have a Patreon down below where you can support me for as low as $1 a month. Things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Some of those perks will include the 32-minute live reaction to this very chapter, and also ad-free variations of all my videos. And if you happen to become a $25 patron and or member, you can you can order a video. Like, literally, you just get a video a month. So there are a lot of perks that can happen over there on Patreon and in the channel memberships. But of course, enough advertisement. I'd like to thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That Guy with the Pencil, writing off. I'd like to give a thank you to our $3 members for Connor Plays, Red Wolf 4765, Greyhound, and Atkins Void. I'd like to give another thank you to our $5 patrons Victor, Sean, RNG Master, Midnight Gemlord, Metal Solid Crisis, Kevin, Igneal, and Demix LND. And I'd like to give another thank you to our $7 member Autumn's Morning Lazo. I'd like to give another chunk of thank you to our $10 patrons, Robbie Uchiha, Joaquin, Idemokami, and China Doll 09. I'd like to give a fat, juicy, scrumdiddlyumptious thank you to our wonderful $25 member, Alex Ice Rose. I'd like to give another hefty, defty, trifty, nifty thank you to our $25 patron, Calvin Elder.